Good morning, traders. It is 8:04 a.m. Chicago time. Sorry about the delay. Lots of changes this morning. Threw me for a loop here, causing a delay. Um, it is Monday, the 21st of August, 2023. Thanks for joining me. 2520 is the episode number, 2520. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. We're seeing the markets pushing higher this morning. The overall sentiment is mild risk on, with the Nasdaq leading the pack today in the U.S. Nasdaq's up almost 70 points. The S&P up 12 points. Overall, just looks like a continuation of what we saw on Friday afternoon. The major events to talk about here. Let's see. We're looking at not much in terms of earnings. We do get Zoom after the close today. Zoom is supposed to report $1.05 on 1.11 billion. For the rest of the week, we have Lowe's. We have several others. Looks like, we also had BHP Billiton out of Australia. Lowe's companies tomorrow. NVIDIA on Wednesday. Analog Devices and Autodesk as well. On Thursday, we get Intuit, Royal Bank of Canada, TD Bank, and Workday. On Friday, we get Dell Technologies. So the earnings season is kind of winding down at this point. As far as what's on the calendar this week, the calendar is very, very light on high tier releases coming into this week. So when I look at only high tier releases, we do have some PPI numbers. We got the German PPI month on month came in a lot softer, negative 1.1% versus negative 0.2%. So just inflation falling off a cliff here in Germany. We do get a few numbers. Tomorrow we get existing home sales, Fed's Barkin, and so on, Fed's Goolsby, Fed's Bowen. And then Wednesday, we get the HCOB manufacturing PMI flash out of Germany and Europe. We get the S&P Global CIPS services and manufacturing PMI out of England. Same for the U.S. Jackson Hole Symposium begins on Wednesday. Thursday, durable goods, initial claims. And then GfK consumer confidence out of Great Britain. And on Friday, we get GDP growth out of Germany, IFO business climate out of Germany, and Fed's Chair Powell and the ECB's Lagarde at Jackson Hole on Friday. And that's it. Very, very light calendar this week. So not sure what to expect here, but don't be shocked if it's a slow, grindy, quiet drift. PBOC cuts rates again, but by less than expected. Ukraine reportedly nearing deal with global insurers to cover grain shipments. Palo Alto network shares surge after earnings on Friday. I want to divert your attention to this gray box here, especially the rotations. The rotations have been climbing. The average one standard deviation of a normal rotation, the S&P, is up to 5.25 points. The NQ 24 points. The RTY is the only one that fell actually last week. Across the board, RTY seems to be losing volatility. RTY fell to 2.9 points as a standard rotation, first standard deviation of their rotation. YM 34 and crude 22 cents. Remember, crude we're trading October. We rolled last week. Looking at the S&P, the S&P has traded 176,000 contracts. We have a multi-distribution profile. The market has pulled back a fair amount, but overnight it's pushed to 44.07, which was the target area for Friday. The inventory is 55% long, so leaning long, and the range is 32 points almost, which is pretty great for a Monday. point of control at 44.05 at the top of the range. We're leaving that point of control above us at this point. The trend since even including Friday's rally, the trend, the one time framing on a daily is down in the S&P. So looking to see if that'll reverse today. Here's what I'm talking about when we look at, so this is your peak day. This is your first pivot day for one-time framing, and then we have one-time framing down, one-time framing down, one-time framing down. And here we are this morning right at the top of Friday's range. The high of Friday was 43.96. We're trading at 43.93 and a quarter. And what this is likely to do is this is likely to use Friday's value area, and a fair amount of trading occurred on Friday between 86 and about 70, 72. This is likely to be a base here. So if we do get a pullback, for me, I'm just simply stalking along today, looking for us to clean up these single prints into 44.04, and then to push the overnight high for the overnight stat at 44.0750. The target becomes, you guessed it, I'm not going to wait for you to give me an answer, 44.19. 44.19. Right here. The MC point of control in this area. So now we've pushed through. We actually sliced through the MC point of control in this area quite easily, and now we are likely to pull back up in there and chop around a fair amount. So this is the key plan for today. We do have some interesting structures above. We do have that, remember that reference 44.65 above from last week, and then we have our mammoth 90 to 93, 90 to 93. All right, that would be the upside kind of key area. So that's where we stand. Note also that the low on Friday was the 43.50, and this is why we always mention the century and the mid-century figures. These figures get a lot of play. They tend to create turbulence. They tend to create noise. We see collisions in those areas. A lot of times they act as highs or lows. And if they don't act as a high or low, they tend to act as a point of control or a high volume area. And Friday pushed to 43.50 and it turned around. Now remember, on the drop on Friday, our plan, this is what we discussed. We discussed, hey, if this thing opens and returns back, then we're looking for prior settlement, and the key target above being 4400 to 4402, right? 02 and 00. And then if it falls, then we're looking for 43.33 to 43.35. This is an awful handwriting here. 43.33, 43.35. It didn't do that, just went to 50, and it pulled back to the prior settlement, and it pushed almost to the 4400, and then today we're trading right up there. So we're making the effort. It looks like buyers are making the effort of holding prices up. It seems like we found our buyers for now, and so I'm leaning long-ish. Where do I stop leaning long? Once it clears the value area of Friday and gets on the other side. So if it falls below the 43.65 area or so right down here, then my hypothesis on the push higher back into 65 in the next couple of days or whatever, that hypothesis is wrong, and now 43.33 gets back on deck. Okay, that's the next balance area. So that's the summary for the ES, nice and sweet and quick. Here's the overall composite chart. You can see we've been making really good progress to the downside. We're opening and we're closing down below. We're opening up top, closing down below, but Friday we opened at the low, closed up top, so we're starting to lean towards higher. We do have a few balance areas to deal with up above, but we'll talk more about those as we approach. Looking at the NASDAQ, the NQ, similar kind of thing as the ES. The NQ still has some singles to clean up, and it is above or at Friday's high. So any pullback today, I'm going to look for any type of strength, any area to lean against long, and look for it to push through into the 14,850, clean up these singles, and start working itself back to this balance area up close to about 14,890, 14,900 this morning. So the double O, of course, and then you have your point of control at about 890. 890 becomes the next area. If the Nasdaq comes back, does a gap to settle, and it just isn't able to hold, and it's kind of trading through this value range, then my hands are actually staying off in the value area, staying off the mouse. There's no edge in value. Looking for the bounce near the low of value, and if we don't get the bounce near low of value, that's about 14,670 or so, then it's very likely to retest Friday's low and work itself down into 14,500 next. But you know, this thing has been migrating down quite well, and it looks like we're breaking it today. So this is the important thing to note, is that today it looks like it wants to reverse. And my expectation is that any pullback is likely to get supported, and I'm looking to be long into the single prints and into the next point of control. Again, 890 to 14,900. That becomes the target. Anything above there is just cream, really. So that's that. Looking at crude. Crude did a good job of getting to, remember I talked about the 80.75, did a good job of getting there on Friday, opened, nice little drive on Friday, very wide IB, the yellow line, the yellow vertical line is the IB. Look at how this IB is small. This IB, relatively wide IB here, but Friday, really a lot of business done in the first hour between 9 and 10 Eastern, and then it finally extended up into 80.75. So the expectation for crude, the 80.75, comes to us, and I was asked about this by our friend Lord Sean Connery this morning, our crude guy. You see these value areas. Once we get into the value area, we expect to test the extreme. So you have this 80.75 here, but also you have 80.85 right there, which is where we stopped on Friday. And then on top of that, we have this 81.20 area as the next key area to test. And we're gapping up. We note that we opened. We ticked up to 81.64, so, and we are responsive. So for crude, the expectation is it's likely to continue to be responsive into the 80.75, so expecting 80.75 retest from the top this morning, and potentially a gap to settle trade, a G2S setup. Gap to settle trade to 80.66, but I'm expecting it to find a base and not get much beyond 80.40. Well, let's do it in sequence. 80.50 to 40. I'm expecting this area to be a base here for it to turn back up. Remember, the overall market sentiment is risk on this morning, and crude is a large component of that risk on trade as participants expect improvements. We expect some sort of an energy input, and currently we still live in an age where the energy input's going to be crude predominantly. So that's that. I'll leave you with those thoughts. I mean, so far in the overnight session, look at what the ES has done, by the way, just while I have you here. Look at what the ES has done. It has come right back to the most prominent low volume nodes. So we had our point of control down here, then it migrated up here, and then it moved to the top. So we have a multi-distribution profile. And what the market has done is it has moved the point of control, and usually that provides fuel for a further push higher. And what it did is it tried to push higher. It hit a collision at 4407.50, and then from there it's just been profit taking, and we are back where we are back in the day references, the day generated prices here at 43.93, 43.91 or so. 43.91 or so, and that coincides with the low volume nodes. So what you have here in the 43.90 is a line in the sand. Wow, that was a perfect line. That was a free-handed line right there. Pretty awesome. So 43.90 becomes this line. This is the early LIS. This gets wiped away within minutes of the open because once the market opens, the volume far overwhelms the overnight action. But the LIS here is 43.90. I mean, if they're not able to hold this area here between 43.90 and 43.93, sound familiar? Remember 44.90, 44.93. If they're not able to hold this, then it's probably back to settle before we decide what the next play is. It kind of changes things because we are in the upper distribution, or the upper portion of Friday's range. I expect some support here, so I'm going to be watching very closely what happens here at 43.90. And if it gives it up, it's okay. I'm going to keep my hands off the mouse, as I said, into the prior settlement and through the value range of Friday. It really needs to break hard for me to participate. Okay? Very cool. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. By the way, if you're a Convergent member, there's a special session taking place today at 12 Eastern. There's a special announcement for the members there. Please be sure to check your email and to show up. We'd like to share something with you and take questions and so on. That'll take place at 12 Eastern today. Please do check your email if you're a Convergent member. Appreciate it. Take care.